I am officially declaring a national emergency.
Welcome to WatchMojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the worst humanitarian, environmental, and natural disasters that have resulted in massive long-term suffering and global impact.
The second wave that hit the train was 12 meters high.
2019 Amazon rainforest fires. The Amazon is the largest rainforest in the world, serving as the lungs of the earth. It helps regulate global warming by acting as a carbon sink.
Trees are now being cut down and burnt at such a rate that nearly a third of carbon dioxide emissions are caused by deforestation.
However, in 2019, the rainforest and its millions of inhabitants, plant and animal, battled fires that eradicated an area of nearly 9,000 square kilometers.
This is not just a forest burning, this is almost a cemetery, because all you can see is dead.
Wildfires are a natural occurrence during dry seasons, but 2019's fires were among the worst in recent history. More than 72,000 fires raged ferociously. It was a roughly 85% surge compared to the previous year. Deforestation and a slash-and-burn approach for agriculture and development were identified as significant causes of the fires. Global outrage followed and continues to this day, but so does deforestation. Rohingya refugee crisis. In August 2017, senior Burmese military commanders set plans for an area clearance against Myanmar's minority Rohingya Muslim population. Weeks later, the world witnessed what the UN described as a textbook example of ethnic cleansing.
You know, I think we live in an era where people talk about never again, never letting certain things happen again. And the persecution of the Rohingya is not something new. It does shock me.
A brutal crackdown by Myanmar's military saw entire villages being burned, mass killings, and sexual violence against the Rohingya. Official documents would later show how the military demonized the Rohingya.
If a psychologist could come and help, I would be happy because I have to live with this every day.
They enlisted spies who would take part in the operations and coordinate the violence with ultra-nationalist Buddhist monks. Nearly 700,000 fled to Bangladesh, where they joined 300,000 who had arrived from previous waves of displacement. Today, the Rohingya remain stateless in overcrowded camps, with little hope of returning to their ancestral homes. "2010 Russian heatwave. The summer of 2010 was not so pleasant for Western Russia. A record-breaking heat wave caused temperatures to soar past 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit, with wildfires enveloping cities in a noxious mix of haze and smoke.
The highest temperatures in 130 years have turned Russia's forests into furnaces.
Scientists looking for causes found none to blame. The phenomenon was largely natural and caused by atmospheric processes with little human influence, but this did not make it less deadly. More than 55,000 people died from either respiratory illness or heat stroke.
Do anything. Everything is burning, the crowd shouts at the Prime Minister. Even promises of compensation and rebuilding homes couldn't win them over.
The fires released millions of tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and devastated wheat crops. Moscow would be clouded in smoke for weeks as hospitals overflowed with victims of nature's onslaught.
The Russian authorities have promised sweeping reforms to help ease the situation, but many have been left questioning whether this year's fires and noxious smog are a taste of summers to come.
Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Oil and water never mix well. So when the Deepwater Horizon oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico on April 20th, 2010, scientists knew they had a massive environmental crisis at hand.
In the 3 years that I've been CEO, I've focused on improving dramatically our safety and environmental performance. Prior to this accident, that had indeed been the case.
11 out of the 126 workers on the rig were killed. 87 days later, nearly 3.19 million barrels of oil, amounting to 134 million gallons, spilled into the Gulf of Mexico. This was the largest marine oil spill in history.
Scientists have discovered another massive underwater oil plume, 22 miles from the broken wellhead, moving northeast toward Mobile Bay.
It devastated marine life. Coastal economies were wrecked, and the British Petroleum Company faced billions in damages. More than 10 years after the disaster, governing bodies have failed to implement recommendations for the greater restoration of the environment. Marine life in the Gulf continues to show evidence of contamination.
But if this thing keeps on going the way it's going, and we don't get our economy rolling again, we're going to have a mess.
2011 East Africa drought. Climate shocks do not settle easily. Between July 2011 and mid-2012, Somalia, Kenya, and Ethiopia suffered a drought considered the worst in 60 years.
We fled from Upper Shabelle after all our goats and sheep were lost in the drought.
Crops failed, livestock died, and water grew scarce. The ensuing famine claimed more than 260,000 lives, according to a UN report. Most of them were young children. Consecutive failed rainfall seasons left several million in need of humanitarian aid.
But the needs are everywhere in this region. It's really...
Things were only made worse by the region's political instability, which restricted access to those essential services. Adding economic fragility and regional conflicts to an already volatile situation transformed the East African drought into a mass tragedy.
750,000 are at risk of dying.
To this day, drought trends in the Horn of Africa continue to get worse with no rain in sight. Cyclone Nargis. In the South Pacific, hurricanes are referred to as cyclones. Different words, same impact. In May of 2008, one such cyclone, dubbed Nargis, struck Myanmar.
By dawn, many realized their villages and many of their friends and families had simply been washed away.
With peak winds of 165 kilometers per hour, Nargis laid waste to whatever was in its path. The storm was so powerful that it caused around 140,000 fatalities. Freshwater ponds were destroyed, more than 50 townships were affected, and nearly 2.4 million people were affected. Making matters worse, Myanmar's military regime purposely blocked and refused international aid and relief efforts.
Little by little, month by month, the supplies were cut down, until after a few months, they totally stopped.
This left survivors to fend for themselves. The cyclone may have destroyed livelihoods, but the government's failure to assist its citizens ensured the storm's aftermath cut deeper.
The government has set up signs about reconstruction. We see that, but we villagers have nothing. It's true, we haven't received a thing.
2010 Haiti earthquake. Considered one of the 3 deadliest quakes of all time, the 7.0 magnitude Haiti earthquake struck near Port-au-Prince on January 12, 2010.
According to an Associated Press photographer on the ground, at least one hospital has collapsed and people are screaming for help.
With its exceptionally high rates of poverty, Haiti was left vulnerable to massive damage and loss of life. By the time the tremors ceased, countless had died, with hundreds of thousands injured and millions left homeless.
They may have had a roof over their heads, but now they don't even have that.
Rescue efforts were hampered by the government and a crumbling infrastructure. Not long after the earthquake, the country was also struck by the first modern large-scale outbreak of cholera, which killed thousands more. The nation's path to recovery has been slow and arduous, with institutional capacity and political stability being a work in progress.
Because there was such hope, but pessimists said, you know what, we'll see. We'll see whether or not anything changes.
2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Earthquakes on land are cause enough to worry. Underwater earthquakes come with the added complication of a potential tsunami. In 2004, a 9.1 magnitude undersea earthquake off the coast of Sumatra triggered a massive tsunami.
Memang kalau kita cerita tsunami, itu yang beratnya bukan waktu tsunami itu. Yang beratnya kita jalani hidup setelah tsunami.
The wall of water struck without warning, traveling at 804 kilometers an hour. It made landfall within 15 to 20 minutes after the quake, leaving no time to flee to higher ground. The tsunami proceeded to swallow various coastal towns from Indonesia to Sri Lanka. The third largest earthquake in the world since 1900 ultimately killed more than 230,000 people and displaced nearly 2 million in 14 South Asian and East African countries. The scale of devastation the tsunami wrought was a sobering reminder of nature's power and fury.
It was simply something absolutely massive that traumatized communities, but from which most of them have made remarkable recoveries.
COVID-19 pandemic. According to the world's largest disaster response network, the COVID-19 pandemic has claimed more lives than any earthquake, drought, or hurricane in recorded history.
Even for all the nurses and the doctors that are helping all the people that are sick and dying in the hospital, we love you and
thank you for everything that you do.
Declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization in March of 2020, coronavirus has since killed more than 6.5 million people worldwide and infected hundreds of millions more.
Pretty much the entire emergency department's a hot zone at this point.
The onset in 2020 silenced the world. The virus collapsed economies, disrupted education, reshaped work culture, and changed everyday life. The pandemic was a moment when the world witnessed humanity at its best and its worst.
Anti-mask protesters made their way through Century City Mall on Sunday. They first went to a nearby Ralph's supermarket where there were confrontations with shoppers captured on cell phone video.
The development of a vaccine helped blunt the subsequent waves, but the pandemic left a lasting impact that is felt by many to this day.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications.
War in Darfur, dubbed the first genocide of the 21st century and the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The conflict in Darfur has raged since its inception in 2003.
Have any of you tried to go back to your land in the years that you've been living here?
It began when rebel groups from Darfur revolted against the national government in 2003 over a lack of representation. The Sudanese government responded by bombing the rebel headquarters before turning on its people. Villages were torched, civilians massacred, and women sexually assaulted en masse. The conflict continues to this day, even after the 2011 split that created the Republic of South Sudan. With hundreds of thousands believed to be dead and millions displaced, systematic violence against the people of Darfur persists in what is a living tragedy in motion. Did we miss any that deserve global attention? Let us know in the comments below.
You're only as healthy as your most vulnerable members of the society.